Hey guys, Ben Labadie here again with another week of COVID conversations with Dr. Henry Svec. Henry, how are you today?
I'm good, Ben. How are you doing?
Good, good. Now we're doing something a little bit different today. I was talking to my good friend Lee. He gave away, he delivered a ton of pizzas to all the grocery stores and many other places, pharmacies. And tonight, if you comment on here, you could win a large pizza and a pound of wings from Konstantinos. And they're on Queen Street here in Chatham. So if you are commenting and you want to win some pizza, and I don't know too many people who don't like pizza, and I believe we were talking there earlier, Henry, about gluten-free pizza and cauliflower pizza and stuff like that, and
I'd be up
a
for a
bunch of
pound of wings. I haven't had a good pound of good wings, eh? Good pound of wings.
wings would
Getting a
be good right
wing
now. I'm
mood.
not I'm not a great wing eater, but I am good at eating pizza.
Oh,
I'm really good at eating pizzas. So yeah, that's all you guys have to do is if you want to win pizza, we're gonna make a draw at the end of this,
hmm
and we'll announce it after. But all you gotta do is comment. You can say hello. You can ask a question. You can engage in conversations. But yeah, that's all you gotta do. So Henry, tell me how you been doing.
I'm trying to stay jacked up, but it's been a tough week. I was telling you earlier that the depression, there's more depression, there's more anxiety. So we're trying to keep people, focused on solutions. And then between you, I mean, what happened with our fearless leader of the province because we all went through this as a family. We went through this discussion. I have adult children who live within driving distance. And we talked about the weekend. We said, no, we can't get together. We all agreed, it's the rule and we're going to abide by the rule. And then when we hear the rule maker decides to have his family over, you start thinking, what is like it just hurts trust, and people need security and they need to trust someone. And when you look to people who are supposed to be in leadership positions, I'll never forget I was in high school. I went to Buffalo to watch a football game. Do you ever go to Buffalo on those bus trips to watch football in high school, Ben?
I've never been to the Buffalo, but I've been on a bus trip to watch
You kind of
football.
know, right? So we go there, and that's when O.J. Simpson played for the Bills, right? And everybody on the team's working hard, and the juice is standing on the sideline just doing this because he didn't want to. He was the only guy not working out. He was just kind of relaxing and talking to the crowd. And I'm thinking, everybody's supposed to be running like sprints and stuff, and he's just standing there. Different rules for different people. And so when the leader of the province decides to break all the rules on the weekend, it hurt me because I supported the guy. I
Yeah.
like some of the stuff he does, but I was so like I should get over this because I have such an eternal optimism in people. I think that here's someone and then I saw that I think you don't know what you've just done to all the people, like all the people who made a choice to not be with family on the weekend. What is the
Yes.
message? Where's our local? Where's Rick? Come on, Rick. Tell us what you think about your leader today. Tell us what the solution. Come on. I mean, I'm gonna. You know what I decided? I'm gonna find him $1,000 because usually I send him $1,000 a year. That party. I'm gonna send him one and put
Mhm.
Boyd on it for $1,000. They're not getting my $1,000. I'm gonna find the premier $1,000 tonight. I
Well,
decided just
that's
before
one
we
way to
got on.
do it is hold back. Hey,
Well,
what
he's
do you
not. Yeah.
guys think? What do you think about the premier
Ugh.
visiting the family, breaking the rules? That it's one thing to break the rules. Okay, I can understand breaking the rules, but when you're in that position of telling everybody else to stick by the rules, you're
Yeah.
telling them what to do, and then you do the complete opposite and do the things that everybody is holding back from. I think that's a little bit tough. That's a little bit tough to handle because then I wouldn't handle that well. I
Well,
don't.
it's a losing team. You're on a losing team. If certain players don't have the same rules as the lowest guy on the depth chart, you have a losing team. I've been on winning teams and losing teams, and that's a losing team. That coach is a loser. I'd fire him tomorrow. Unfortunately, we can't. And I still think he's got some good ideas. But either and then it's like he didn't know, well, I only had 6 people at my house. Well, you set the rule at 5 people.
Right.
Like, first of
Now,
all, anyway,
Henny,
yeah, I
what
don't
do
know.
people think? What do people think when they see that action? Do they feel more like they can go out?
Well,
Like I want to know
well,
what goes through most people's minds or a majority of people's minds when they see that.
it's trust, right? There's trust issues too. You build trust over time with people. So it takes a long time to build up trust, and it takes a second to destroy that trust, whether it's relationships or leadership in business and so on. So when that happens, the impact to people is significant. And remember, I'm a supporter of that party, and I'm disgusted with that behavior. You say, well, that's just a little thing. Well, when you get older, you realize little things are gateways to telling you a lot of messages about behavior. So when you make that choice because you think it's right for you, and you're doing it for yourself because you're selfish, you're not supposed to be doing that when you're making other decisions on people, right? So it even though it seems insignificant, it's not insignificant. It's very hurtful.
Mhm.
And then so when people are at home and they're self-isolating and they're doing all the right things, and they chose not to be with their family this weekend, and then you see that happen, what does that do to your mental health? You can't get angry. I mean, you can get angry, but that's not going to help you. You get sad. Who do you trust? Like, who can you trust? And then today I heard, now the rule is you can't have family members over. But then the medical guy said, no, the premier is wrong. You can't have family members over. So I'm confused, which is not unusual for me. But I'm confused about this whole thing because every day when I talk to clients who are, some of them have no contact, and we're trying to keep people positive as we do on this show. And then that happens. And you go, buddy, come on. Like, anyway.
I think Shirley has a good one here. She says, amen. As a nurse, we work hard to build that trust. We need to lead by example.
Shirley's right on. I mean, the work that nurses do and all the healthcare people, the cleaners, everybody who's on the front lines is incredible. You know, what they're doing to keep us safe and healthy. But I mean, I wonder as a nurse, who do they look for leadership? I mean, they're internally driven because but is it just me? Do people feel a little disappointed about the leadership potential? Then as someone mentioned our municipality, first they cut the lowly people to sit. I mean, people low on the depth chart of salary jobs. We keep all the people who make 100 grand plus they decide to build a garage for $5 million. Now, Ben, if you're in economic trouble, would you come home and say, I think I'll build a $5 million garage? Like, come on. What is, it's like Seinfeld. This just seems like a long extended episode of Seinfeld or something. I don't understand.
So Shay, Ireland, what do you guys think of council's decision on from Monday night? Certain things close over the summer, sports fields and pools. As a recreational provider myself, is it safe to say no team or youth sports this fall? What's that going to be an impact? They have been talking about keeping all that closed over the entire summer. What will that do to kids?
Well,
what kind
to
of
me,
effect?
I always think of the mental health and the brain development and the need for children to learn skills, like whether it's sports, music, other activities. I still am amazed that we can't figure out sports, but we can keep the LCBO open. You know, we have to find ways to do other sports with kids. We have to, instead of just canceling everything, why not hire the rec people, all the students they were going to hire that they fired last night, and why not have them do, you know, a group of 5? Social distance. They're doing it in other situations. Why not help these children stay active, set up different, be creative? And I think that's the biggest frustrating thing. People are saying, well, what am I going to do all summer with my 10-year-old who needs, you know, needs to be active, and needs, you know, if your child has ADD or something else, they really need to be active. So I think it's very short-sightedness, and it's just so, I mean, we're all working to keep people jacked up, but we don't even have a date. We don't even know when we can say to people, you're going to be able to do this. You're going to be able to go for a run, you know, in a park, take your kid and throw football or soccer, whatever. So I sorry, maybe we need help, you and I tonight, Ben. Maybe people can log in and help us get jacked. I'm pretty excited, but I'm not for people who are isolated and alone and have no one. So one thing I'll say, if you know someone who's alone, please reach out and call them, because you may not think it's important, but there are people who have not talked to people for many days. And so if you know someone, it could be a neighbor, it could be someone in your community, your church, whatever, please reach out, because this is getting, and we have no idea when this is going to stop, because now they're talking, this could go on for months.
Henry, how simple of a message can you send to somebody to just reach out. So when people hear the words reach out, what does that really mean? Does it mean calling them and having a conversation? Does it mean just saying hello? Can it be done in a text? Can it be done in a video, a phone call, a knock on the door? How simple can we break down reaching out?
Well, I can tell you a situation that happened, personal one that was helpful. So in 1975, what is that, 35 years ago? No, how many, is that 35 years ago? Yeah. So 35 years ago, I played football with someone at Western who a word went out, this person was terminally ill and had a few weeks left, and that we should reach out as players. Now, this is very separate, but I want to tell you what it's like to reach out. So I hadn't talked to this man in 35 years. I was a freshman and he was he was a senior. And he took me under his wing the first month, and he said, "Hank, you're a freshman. I'm gonna show you what it's like to be at Western." So we had some fond memories, but I hadn't talked to him for 35 years. So I thought, I should, I haven't talked to him, but so I picked up the phone. I just called him, and I said, "It's Hank. How are you?" And all we did was talk a few stories, and he said, I said, I haven't talked to you for so. He said, "That's fine. I went on to my life. You went on to your life, but it's good to hear from you and share a few stories." And that was it. And I talked to a bunch of other guys. I said, "Well, did you call them?" And they go, "No, I said, "Well, it's hard to pick up that phone." And so if you know someone, even you haven't talked to in a few years, and you just say, "Hey, it's me, and we did this together, and maybe we're on this club together or committee, or we went to school together or something," just reach out to people and just talk. Like, it's not nothing deep, nothing psychological. Just, "I was thinking about you today. I want to make sure you're okay." That's all you have to say. And just talk.
Just a hello works.
Just, "How you doing? And I'm thinking about you today. How you doing?"
Yeah.
And just talk about it. And I think you'll find that, it's one of those things you need to work on. But I think now we need to realize some of us are very fortunate. We have family. Many people can't work from home. People keep talking about working from home. There are many people who cannot work from home. And so they're not working. They're isolated. They don't have a lot of family or people around them. And they need people to, I think the isolation, we haven't really looked at all the long-term impacts of this. Like there's some significant, not just we heard about waiting lists for surgery and people with cancer who can't, there's so many things about holding this back that's going to be so difficult that we need to try to do some things ourselves.
Okay. Kate, the depression is setting in real hard for a lot of people. It's awful. The mental health effects of COVID-19 will be far worse, I think, than the actual virus. Is that a possibility, Henry? I mean, people are dying because of the virus.
I feel very,
not in the crazy amount of numbers that everybody thought, but a lot of people you're starting to see a lot of things as a result of staying home, and what's the long-term effect of that, and on financial, on stress, on mental health.
I keep fighting the numbers, as many people do, because our chief medical officer said 80% of the people who have perished from this have lived in nursing homes. So then I check that box. I go, okay, I don't live in a nursing home. And then they say a significant number of people have pre-existing horrible conditions, and that's a significant one. And then in our community, we're fortunate, perhaps because it's rural, because maybe, I don't know why, but we do not have a COVID problem in Chatham-Kent, apparently, other than the tragedy of the person who did pass away. And other people who got sick. So you really want to fight that stat, because it's telling you, well, I should be able to go outside. I should be able to go talk to friends or hug my friends or my family, because we don't have, but you don't, because you follow the rules, because we're doing that. So the depression side is something that isn't often measured. And the part that I concern myself, I work with a lot of men, or I work with first responders, type A, successful business people like yourself, Ben, people who, you're just going to keep fighting. You're not going to tell people when you're hurting. And that's the biggest worry I have. People who are in their homes or they're isolated, and even when they talk to people, you can't tell that there's significant depression. And that's why we need to be continually around those people if we can, through regular phone calls, regular check-ins. And now that we have telepsych, where you can talk to a physician, in our clinic, we do virtual stuff at our clinic. So I spent today doing this kind of thing, seeing clients, which telepsychology, telehealth has become more accepted quickly. We've been doing it for a very long time, but suddenly it's now okay. So we've been doing a lot of that, and that's helpful. But I think we just need to continually realize that this isn't just about staying away, because the challenge now is when we do start getting back together, which we need to do. I mean, my bias is I believe we need to get back together. We need to socially distance, but we need to find ways to do everything. We need to
Right.
find ways to get back and support our restaurants. We need to find ways to get back and get kids back active again. I mean, we have swimming pools in our community. Is it contacted in swimming? I don't think so. So the children who swim, can they go swimming back to the swimming club? How do you do a gymnastics club? I know Blenheim has a great gymnastics club here. How can they do gymnastics safer? Maybe we just haven't put enough energy into saying we're going to go back. And you know yourself, when you have a deadline, you're more likely to meet that deadline.
Right.
When you say, hey, whenever,
Yeah.
you know, it's not
And
happening.
what do you say to Danielle's put a message up here? Today was the hardest for our family. And I see a lot of these messages as I scroll through social media about how hard each day is becoming. And,
Can
you
we
know,
find
like
out why a little bit, Danielle, without declaring too much? Can you tell us what was about today?
But a lot of people do have, as we're waiting if she replies there,
Yeah, go ahead.
you know, it's just that ongoing, it's another day. And sometimes I find when I see pictures of kids and say there's grandparents and they can't hug, like we're
Yeah.
talking young, tiny kids that are used to hugging grandparents, and they're through a window. What does that mentally do to a child? Because I myself don't understand it, and I'm 41, but a young child, you know, that's
I
5
think
or
for
6.
children, it's more physiological. That when you hug, obviously, there's a lot more that happens just by the hug, by the contact. And if they can't hug grandma and grandpa for rightful reasons, we don't want people to get sick who are aging, but it causes that kind of a concern. I think it's kind of how we put in perspective. I think we used the flu argument for a while. Oh, they've got a cold,
Right.
they've got the flu, you don't want to be close. That's kind of how we deal with it in a lot of ways. But I think children are craving that kind of contact. And it's scary. The anxiety levels, we talk about depression, but anxiety levels gone up because there's uncertainty. By definition, we have total uncertainty. And I don't even want to watch the 11 o'clock dancer come out and tell us how we're all in this together. When I know at Easter, he went and broke a rule and went to Quebec to hang out with his family. So I don't even want to hear about this fake, these pretend leadership people who come out and pretend it, because then we put faith in them and then they let us down. So it's important for people to focus on what you can control and really, really slice your world down to what am I going to do for the next hour, the next half hour. Don't think too much about the future. Just think about right at this moment. How can I cook a great meal? And most of us are doing fridge recipes. Are you doing fridge recipes, Ben?
Am I doing fridge? Yes, I am. I'm
Aren't
coming
they
up with some
exciting? Well,
stuff.
you just look in the fridge and you see what you have and you cook something with it. You don't have to plan.
Absolutely.
You just, I got some mushrooms over here. I got this over here. I've got some sweet potatoes under the sink. I'm going to put this together. So try to really get into what you're doing, and that's good for your mental health. And obviously, we talked about helping others. If you can reach out to help, and try not to let these contradictions, like we've been talking about, because this is more therapy for me tonight, because I feel better now. I've talked about all the contradictions in my head that are just won't stop going around, right?
Well, a few weeks ago, like we were talking and about getting into a routine and doing something and being productive, and I've been running. I've racked up, I think, almost 130 kilometers in the last 2 weeks running. So
Shin
just trying to
splints?
run every street in Chatham.
Any bad side to this, Ben, or is it all good?
Any bad side to it?
Shin splints, or need new shoes, or stopping for pizza, or is there anything that?
No. I do find myself, I'm hungrier because the more you get your metabolism going, the hungrier you become. But I haven't really worked on the healthy eating portion of it,
Yeah,
which
it's
is a
tough
big
because
part.
we're getting into habits, right? The hungriness, for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
We sometimes eat more because we're anxious or stressed, or
Yeah.
we're
Okay,
maybe
let's
cooking.
go, Becky here. I have a friend with some serious health issues, and the whole focus is COVID. These people are falling in the cracks and possibly losing their lives. Yes, we are getting angry. So
Don't worry
the
about
people
anything.
that, well, probably because they're falling through the cracks, whatever that means. I don't know what that means. But a lot of these, like, I read one who really liked going to the library. That was their outlet every day. They can't do that. And you almost feel like it almost feels to some like they're in a prison.
Yeah. We said at first, remember the very first show we said that when I said it's not like prison. I visited and it's not like them. But it's moved to that psychologically now because you're losing control. We're waiting for people to tell us if we have privileges, right?
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Sadness and not knowing what is going to happen. Cannot visit family across the Windsor Bridge is sad for me. We try our best, but can be tough. But have to stick together through this. I so much give the nurses and doctors so much credit. Lots of prayers and trust God. So tough on the children, I think. But we have to try our best to keep them calm. Yes, the news can be too much and a little bit scary. Yes.
Do you think they understand our reality? I was thinking today, the people in power, like our prime minister, they have full-time people, RCMP people to keep them safe. They have full-time housekeepers. They have a lot of social people. They don't have to ever drive anywhere. They don't have to go to the grocery store. They don't have to worry about getting paid. Their jobs will be there. They already have a pension forever. They have none of the same kind of concerns. It's like the finance minister, right? He gets $4 million a year in dividends. His wife is a French fry empire person. They make millions a year, a month in dividends. So let's say he brings in 50 mil a year, and he's our finance minister. Does he really care about Joe's barbershop around the corner? Does he really understand what it's like for that person not to be able to go out today and make a living? Because he's never had to worry about that, nor has our prime minister. So I don't understand. I mean, I think we're starting to realize that we put a lot of confidence in this, and we should really rely on ourselves. So it's kind of like my fault. It's our fault that we don't do more for ourselves and rely less on government when they're trying to have us rely more on them, because we have a long way to go. This isn't just going to be over as we thought. This is going to take a very long time.
Right. Sick people waiting to hear from specialists, but they have reduced hours, hence falling through the cracks. There's just a lot of ways that you don't even think about. But I think for my dad, my dad doesn't.
How's he doing, by the way? How is he? Sorry, I didn't know.
He's doing good. He's doing good. But before, when he would actually go out and do a lot of stuff, like go to the grocery store, and that would be his doing something.
Sure,
he'd go get coffee. That would be his doing something. That's all taken away from him, right? And you don't think about that. Those are very simple things,
right?
That are taken away, and that's seniors, and a lot of them would go for coffee and stuff like that. That's been reduced. How is it's all affecting our children's immune system when we go back to school, being around others? That's a medical question, but
there is stress. I can talk about stress and immune system, because in our system we talk a lot about what stress does to you, and stress is one of the most debilitating issues when it comes to being able to fight a virus or disease. And I want to say that name right. I can't read it.
Shihoy. That's the mother of my kids, actually.
Fantastic. So Shihoy, it is a significant issue for all of us, but particularly children. Stress causes our immune system, and science has proven this over and over. So they've actually taken, one of the greatest studies I read was about first responders, ambulance drivers. They took blood samples just after they got a call, and they determined that within seconds, I think it was 30 or 60 seconds after getting a call, when they took the blood samples, in their blood, they basically could not fight any infections. Their immune system was totally compromised because of this. It was just a quick burst of stress. That's how quickly it happens. And so we don't really know. I mean, fortunately, children are very resilient, but we really don't know enough about how this is going to impact them. But remember, we talked about whatever stress we have, the children suck in as a sponge. So if we're nervous, they're going to be very nervous. So this is something that they're living with every day, particularly since it's, we're hearing more and more, and we see more and more stress within the homes, more divorce. One of those websites where people hook up when they're actually in a marriage is seen a burst. Apparently, that was one of the stats they announced as far as the status of relationships today, how people are having a real problem in their relationships. And so it's yeah, I want to find some positive, Ben. You got to promise before we finish this, we're going to have some positive.
Let's see if we can switch this one to a positive here. From Heather, for all of those cutting their hair at home, me, consider buying a gift card or prepay your self-employed hairstylist. No income since mid-March, with no supplement or benefits from the government. Now, Henry, for those of you guys watching, Henry and I do a show on my Live with Ben page all about Entrepreneur Business Weekly, talking about local business issues. And we did talk about, hair. Really, we talked about that, and
a lot about hair.
How a lot of these hairstylists are kind of suffering because they have no income. And then we talked about the DIY issue that we go back to. And, when people start learning to do things on their own that they normally wouldn't. So
Why
that's
don't
going to
they
be an
Can
issue.
I ask that, why don't they qualify for the $2,000 a month? I don't understand.
I'm not sure how that works. They may. I'm not sure.
Like if their
But
income
still,
is dropped, can't you
the income
apply?
is dropped, right? What's that?
I thought can't you apply if your income is dropped to that $2,000 program that Trudeau announced?
Yeah, possibly. But we're talking also some people rent a chair. Is that chair
Yeah.
still rented? Some people have all these other expenses and even memberships they belong to. I mean, there's a lot of things. But yeah, we do have to get out there and support our local businesses, our mom and pop shops, our hairstyles. Everyone really. That's going to be very important as we come out of this. Don't you agree, Henry?
Yeah. Can you answer me this? Can I ask you this question? Why is it that once we're given the information, we can't make our own decisions? Like I keep going back to being 12 again. Like if we know what the risks are, and everybody knows what the risks are, and if the person who just was on had her shop open, and I need a haircut, and I choose to go in there with I'm implied consent. I know what's going on. I'm going in to get my haircut. There's no mystery to it. I'll even sign a waiver. Why can't we do that? Why is that a crime?
I think people are just, it's a little bit hysteria right now, but there has to get to a point, and I believe, and we talked about this week one about how protests will start, how people will start to kind of do their own thing and look around. Like Becky says, look around. People are going out on their own. Enough is enough. Why aren't we allowed to do what we want? And there has to be something that we have to take responsibility for our actions, but we should be able to live in a little bit of freedom, right? We're not getting that. All we're getting told is what we cannot do. And a lot of people, when they start looking around and they go to Walmart or they go to the grocery store and they see piles of people there, why can't I go to a regular store that I would normally do? Why isn't a local clothing store allowed to be open when Walmart is? Why isn't a garden, when Walmart has everything, and it's almost like you've handed over a monopoly to them, and it's not fair for anybody that's in business that has anything in competition with a Walmart. It's got to be frustrating for a lot of people to not be able to do their own
We
thing.
figured out the LCBO, pot, and grocery shopping. Why can't we figure out whatever, the clothing store in Blenheim or another store in another community? I think there's just been and what did the premier call the people that were protesting that he didn't like because they were too close? What did he call? He used a bad
Yahoos.
word.
He called them Yahoos. Yeah.
I wouldn't say that about him, but what would be the term for what he did on the weekend? Do we have a term for that yet? Has anyone on social media
breaking the law? I believe.
Why isn't Rick Nichols? I mean, I like Rick a lot. Why doesn't he just step up and say, what does he think about his leader? Come on, we're a free country. What are they going to kick you out of caucus if you say the truth? Are you embarrassed by what he did on the weekend? Just tell us. I know it's politics, but I think he's pension protected, isn't he, Rick? Does he have to worry about his pension?
I don't believe so.
I don't know about you, but I've always been frustrated by the lack of leadership. But at a time of crisis, right? At a time of crisis is when you need a person to step up and get on with it. And they're hiding, I heard a great story. They said, we're all excited because we're now going to let you have a backyard campfire. You should be so happy that we gave that back to you. Give me a break.
Let's see here. Shay said, as a self-employer, you can apply for the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, but most small businesses don't qualify for the loan or grants.
She's right. That's true. There's a big gap between people who, if you're self-employed and you didn't employ anybody last year to a certain amount of employment income, you didn't pay salaries to people, you don't qualify for that $40,000 line of credit, which $10,000 is actually forgivable. And that left so many people out, so many small businesses out of this supposed we're taking care of everybody thing. They're not taking care of the people that run our country, which are small businesses are the backbone of our country, and we forgot about them. Someone with a truck who cuts grass alone, who had a drop in business for a while wasn't eligible for any of that.
Let's see here. I have lost a couple friends over the past month and one family member. All three suffered from addiction. They had lack of support and meetings.
So
How
sorry to hear
important are
that.
meetings? How,
You
how
know,
important are meetings to people?
well, the support that people get in addiction programs, I don't know which one we're talking, but when people get together for support, and you need many different types of opportunities, because if one support group or one treatment program may work for someone and not another, and the point is you have to always be working to meet the goal of sobriety or whatever you're fighting. So the social support, the network, there's something you can't measure. It came up a number of times today in my work. I was even asked how I felt about doing this versus being in a room with someone and working with them across the desk. And I said, well, when you're in a room with someone, I get a sense, I get a feeling, and it's kind of strange, but I've been doing it for 30 years, and this is great seeing. Phones are tougher for me, so the phones are the toughest. This is the next toughest, and then face to face is the easiest, because you get a sense of everything that's happening for that person. I think we as humans, if you have a family pet, you know how good they are at picking up your senses when you're anxious, when you're upset, when someone's happy, and sad, when something bad happens. I think when you're in a room with people, you give off things you can't measure but are very valuable. And when you can hug family members or people that are close to you in the home, and that's why, when we talk about this past weekend, Mother's Day, when people weren't able to do that because they were following rules, not everybody, but we were trying to follow rules. It's so painful and hurtful. I'll get over it, Ben. I'll talk to myself tonight. I'll do something.
You'll get over it. Let's see here.
Oh,
Hey guys, if you guys have any questions, throw them into the comment section. And remember, if you do comment, or even if you say hello or anything like that, we are giving away a pound of wings and a large pizza from Konstantinos Pizzeria, Pizza and Wings. This is the first time we've kind of done that. And I know it's kind of like a big ad in the middle of this whole thing, but it does generate more conversation. As you can see,
it's fun,
we get
Ben.
a lot more
We
people
don't have
talking today.
sports. You know what? We don't have sports. We don't have anything else. So let's see who wins the pizza. It's good. I love this. The wings.
This is a big competition now. So somebody who's commented is going to win pizza and wings.
I think that's great.
Henry, do you follow UFC or any sports at all?
As a kid, I watched the fake wrestling. My dad was a fake wrestling fanatic. And then when I still do research on concussions and brain injuries. And I think I watched maybe 15 minutes of a UFC fight, and I was counting the head injuries. And I said, I can't watch this. I can watch football because it's a bit of a different thing. But when I see those blows to the head and I know what's happening, or someone gets kicked with a knee, in the head, that's stuff happening that I don't want to watch. So I can't watch it. Sorry.
Well, I'm a UFC fighter, and I watched it on the weekend there. Yep. And they played to a no audience, nobody in the audience, and it was pretty neat. The sound effects it did seem a little bit more violent when you can hear the sound that, but it was very interesting, and it kind of made you want baseball back, and even sports that you never watched. But I miss watching my kid would have been playing basketball and soccer right now. Right.
I'm watching the Michael.
I love watching that.
Are you watching? I asked you last time. Are you watching Michael Jordan on Netflix?
I've been watching it. Yes.
And what are your? I don't want to be
totally
a spoiler.
Caught up.
Okay, I won't be a spoiler. But what? Just in general, is it helping with some? To me, it's giving me, because I remember I used to watch that when my kids were young. And I'm old, and I think he's the greatest player ever. But it gives you a little bit of a escape from this COVID world we live in, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the best parts about The Last Dance with Michael Jordan there is I'm 41. You're going back all the way to my childhood in rewatching it, right? Yeah. What happened in that time. Yeah. And I think that's really cool. And you're seeing a lot of people talk about it and it's not just Michael Jordan. It's that whole era, really. You're talking about just the years and everything. So it's very, very interesting to watch it all play out. And
I'd
it's
love a
and I
couple
think,
hours. I'd love to sit in a room for a couple hours and just ask him questions about stuff. There's a
yeah,
lot of stuff I'd like to know about him because he's a very
you nailed it,
unique.
Ben. Let's see here. The small stores would have better control of distancing and keeping the rules of individual stores to be what is safe, kept clean. We need to stay patient and have respect for others. I feel this time has brought communities together and myself closer with my daughter. I'm grateful for this time. With anxiety myself, I've been able to look at things in a much brighter way.
Oh, thanks, Kelly. That's a great note. I feel that's good. That's good.
You got
And
some
that's take
positive messaging there.
and that's taking what you have in front of you and doing the best you can with it and getting the positives with your children. I mean, that's amazing. And I think there are many people doing that. And we probably need to focus more on that and end on a positive note. But this is the most concerned I've been all week when I talk to people who are isolated and I see what's happening and the lack of clear focus on future and the lack of leadership and the uncertainty is a word I like to use. It just seems like everything's kind of uncertain, you know?
Right.
I think we heard today that Thursday we were going to get good news about more opening. And then 2 hours later, we hear, no, we're going to learn on Thursday what it's going to be like to be more open.
Right.
Yay. I can't wait, Ben. I'm going to pop some popcorn and watch them say someday.
Yeah. Do people get more excited or they lose hope? Now, this is the third time I think we moved the goalpost to a different time. It was May and now it's June 2nd for the possibility. And do people lose more and more faith as you go on and then kind of lose hope that June 2nd has any impact?
Cried wolf. What do they keep saying? What was that one where you keep saying and then you say, no, just kidding, no, just kidding, no, just kidding. And I think
it was Cry Wolf, yeah.
I don't even watch it. Do you really who wants to watch that anymore? I don't believe anything they say. I don't think they know anything. And I don't think they really are. They're trying to keep us happy. We're in this together, but we're not because there are small businesses who are hurting. We just heard about the hairstylists. And we heard today large companies are getting $80 million.
Right.
They're getting $80 million. They say, well, it's just a loan. But guess what? There's no personal guarantees. If that company goes under, guess who's eating the $80 million? Ben, Hank, and the hairstylist. They're not on the hook personally for anything. But the hairstylist, the person who's cutting grass, the person who's fixing your house, who's a single person or maybe has a helper, they're the ones who are going to get into trouble. So, I think we're losing. The credibility is pretty much toast, in my opinion.
I just want to get camping as a seasonal camper. I hope that's soon. Thoughts? You know what?
Yeah, I don't understand the
I like camping
because they tell us the science tells us outdoors you're safer than anywhere else. And if you're camping alone or with family, in the outdoors by definition. I mean, I'm not talking you're 25 and you're partying with 50 people. I'm talking about you're a responsible person and you have rules and you can even supervise it as they always do in parks. Why can't you camp?
Right. And this is one of those, I'll tell you one thing. Today before I went out running, I ran for about 45 minutes. But today when I saw the sun out, I said to myself, I have to go get some sun. And, running is my tool to use that sun. But when I was running, I ran a little extra. I was going to run 5K and I ended up adding 2.5 kilometers because of the sun.
Right.
And that's the first time I kind of thought in a manner of, man, I better go get like that medicine. It's what it felt like to me. Yep. And I've never thought about that, but I started thinking, I really wanted that sun. And I'm not really a big sun guy.
Yeah.
But I really felt I needed that sun. And a lot of people need their space out. And I have I want to get out camping myself. So I understand. And he's a seasonal camper, so he probably has something already set up that he just isn't allowed to go to.
Yeah, I don't understand. What would happen if 10 hairstylists decide to open their hair studios or hair shops? Why can't we just get together and say, this is ridiculous. We're going to socially distance. We're going to wear masks. We're going to do all the things we're supposed to do. But we have to have a business. What would happen? I think we're a little too compliant, Canadians. We don't go to a point and say enough is enough and is enough,
We are much more compliant. Let's say there was a hairstylist in Texas recently that had to decide between food and prison, and
Mhm.
that was really it. And she just opened up her salon, started doing cuts. She had customers, and she was in prison. They put
They
her in
arrested
prison.
her. Yeah, I know they arrested her. Yeah.
They put her in prison, and I think it was like a $7,000 fine or something. But
Mhm.
the governor ended up paying it. But it's bizarre. But you need almost a bunch of people at the same time to do that. Kind of like
Well,
Elon Musk. Elon
yeah.
Musk is worth 36 billion. They told him he couldn't open his plant. He just opened it, and they're charging him what, $1,000 a day fine or something. But
Yeah.
he had enough, and I think it's going to be, once you see somebody doing it, other people are going to be like, you know what? I can finally agree with that. It's almost like you need somebody to blast through that wall, get all bloody, and people can pile in behind them,
Mhm.
right? You need that leadership of somebody, or somebody like the Texas
Well,
hairstylist, where everybody can agree that's bizarre to put somebody
yeah.
in prison. Where her kids didn't know where she was. Oh, I opened up and cut somebody's hair. I'm going to prison.
Well, there are two
That's
people in our
crazy.
community, or probably three. There's the leader of our municipality, the leader provincially in our community that we voted, and the leader federally. They could step up and say, you know what? This is what you're going to do. I might get kicked out of my caucus. I might get in trouble with Mr. Ford. I might have other counselors not like me. But this is what we're going to do for the betterment of our community. But that would take leadership. That would take someone to step out and say, I don't care if I get reelected. And I could be totally wrong with this. But I think we should have hairstylists open their shops with social distancing. We're going to write up a process. People who are on the sunshine list are going to work 4 days a week, and we're going to give that money back to the people so that students can work and run rec programs. That would take leadership. And the sad thing is we don't have any. So people need to do this on their own. And I don't know how we get there. I know that when we talked about holding back taxes, if you remember, I started that idea. I think they passed a
Mhm.
bylaw to triple the penalty if you don't pay your taxes, because technically you could not pay your taxes for 2 years. So a bunch of colleagues said, let's just choke them out of money. Just don't pay your taxes for 2 years. Well, of course, they multiplied the interest penalties, and so none of us would probably want to do that. I would still do it, but not enough of us would do it. So the point of all that is we as people have lost that ability. We have no leadership. And you mentioned prison. We're begging to get privileges. It's like, can I go to the canteen, please? I've been good. I
Right.
mean, it's just, and this is from the mental health side. When we move to mental health, when you take away control for people, you infuse depression. A healthy person who loses control of most of their lives, of their situation or their environment, become depressed. There were classic animal studies done many years ago when they could do that to animals, where they took away control of animals' ability to stop things from happening to them. And when you take away that control, animals get depressed, people get depressed, healthy people. And I don't think our decision makers understand that. They're taking away the ability of someone to go camping because they want to, control that, or be able to open their business, control that, or take their child. I mean, you're taking away their ability to control some aspect of their lives, which leads to mental health issues. And I think that's what we're facing today.
All right. Let's get through a couple of
Oh,
these.
sorry.
On top of loss of sales, I'm spending a fortune on extra cleaning products. I don't have employees, so can't claim anything. I'm fortunate, though, as I own my own store. I can't imagine how people will recover from with rents and leases. And you do see a lot of people, as we've now passed May
Mm-hmm.
1st, not being able to make their rent payment, lease payments, and that. So you do see a lot of people spending more on just a bunch of cleaning stuff, and hair salons are going to go through that. And you
And
want to touch on that at all, or?
well, I was just going to say, you do need to know that the program announced is voluntary for landlords. And secondly, there's nothing in place on how to apply. I'm a landlord, and we've deferred rent for one tenant who's in business, who hasn't had any business. We just said, well, we'll worry about that when business gets going. But the government announced this great program, but you can't apply as a landlord because there's nothing ready yet. They haven't, and this was for April and May, which is passed, and supposedly for June. And it's also voluntary. So if a landlord doesn't want to do it, they just don't do it. And so there is really no help for people who have certain types of leases. And there's also no way for that landlord to get reimbursed if they have a mortgage, because they're supposed to take a hit. So it's not helpful with how that was been handled. And even though we're led to believe it is, but like this person said, Mark says, he's right. There are more costs to running that business. So you're being held back from doing the business that you want. You're losing control of your business, basically.
What do you guys think of the YouTube video pandemic? I've watched reviews of it, or saw people typing about it. I have not watched it. Haven't
I
spent
haven't
any
watched
time, so can't really comment. But I see that it's pretty popular. Let's see here. I hope schools stay closed the rest of the school year. I don't think it's a good idea to open them yet. What's your thoughts? Everybody has different thoughts on that one. Where you stand, Henry? What do you think?
Well,
School good? School bad?
Yeah, I said a long time ago they're not going to open because it would take a lot of organizing and so on to do that. I think it would be healthy if we had more science, but we really don't know any science. The last couple of days we've been talking about Kawasaki disease, I believe, that might be related to this virus, but it's also related to a number of other viruses. And so we don't know enough. See, we keep getting thrown out bits of science, and we really don't know enough about any. So we go into the pause protect mode, which is helpful and safe, but it doesn't help us move forward. So I think that's now another barrier. How are you going to get around that? Because they say, well, we just don't know.
Right. What I find interesting is people say it's too early to open. BC people will not follow social distancing, and we will not have enough police to police it. So my question is, when will we have enough police to open? In their opinion, in my opinion, we have to open up at some point. So what makes it more safe now versus a month from now? And I really kind of want to. I think when I talk to a lot of different people, they have different opinions. One this way, one that way. What is it about one government official sitting there saying suddenly, oh, we're good now? And why wasn't things good like an hour ago? What makes that switch and has people have confidence? Because for the life of me, I can't figure out how you get to that point. But we do have to open.
Well, I think one thing I admire about Quebec is the courage, win or lose, of that person, the premier of the province, to make that decision. Or if a community decides to make a decision like that based on protocols and protocols and says we're going to open, it takes leadership to do that. And you might lose, you might be, the media will destroy you, people will be upset about you. But if you believe that's the right decision, the safe decision for a politician is to close and don't go out. That's the safe decision because they don't care about it's they kick the can down the road. Yeah, there's people who need surgery, but that's later. This is, we're going to scare people, whatever. So I think it takes courage to make those decisions. And frankly, I mean, my opinion on all this is, I think we need to be allowed to, give people a lot of credit. They're smart, people understand, give them the information as best we can and make the best decision that you think is right for your family and yourself and live your life.
And then when we talk about leadership, I see opportunities here in Chatham-Kent. And the opportunity I see is pretty much very, very tiny amounts of people that have COVID-19. Very limited cases. I think we've had, one death, which is never good. But out of all this, with our numbers so low, and Chatham-Kent being as spacious as it is, I kind of expect, if I were a leader, I'm not. I'm just a guy in a studio. But would this be a good time to just kind of gamble a little bit and move forward with hey, let's do this. Let's do it safely and give people a little bit of motivation. We can be almost leaders, right? I always look at things as, do we have a chance to be a leader here in anything? And I believe we do in opening, right? Opening safely and leading that charge as a community. Many people will disagree with me, and that's okay.
Well,
but with our numbers and what it seems to be the risk here, maybe we're just doing a really good job of staying at home. Unless you're out on Mother's Day looking around, then you're seeing that nobody is.
Well, I think there's a lot of things we're talking about that aren't psych, but that's okay. I think the skills to get elected, which we have people that are very skilled at getting elected, has nothing to do with anything after you get elected. So people who are outstanding politicians, whether it's provincial, federal, or municipal, they know how to get elected. They know how to tell you what you need to hear to get elected. But when it comes down to leadership issues, many of them have had no history of leadership. They don't understand what it's like. They've never been in this situation. Well, none of us have, but a situation where you're really up against it, or you're running a small business. A few in our local community who are elected have run, but most of them have never run a small business. They have no idea. They have no clue. And I don't want to get into all those issues because, I'm an advocate for people in the community, and I'm very disappointed with the people that we have. And so I don't think they know how to lead. I don't think they're capable. They're 0-10 in basketball or football. They could not. They don't know how to step up and take that, make that statement and be strong to people and understand and give to others, not themselves. I mean, the first job was they voted themselves a raise.
Yeah, true.
I don't need to know any more about that group.
From Nicole, exactly, and not criticize people who make the personal decision to go out or to open, not shame or blame, but personal responsibility and common sense. With social media and what it's become a mob. All right, so if somebody sees something that many people disagree with, they pretty much blame and shame.
Mm-hmm.
You see a lot of blame and shame. How do we avoid that? And then things like the snitch lines being created. How do we move beyond or convince others? Not convince. I don't think convince is a word I'm looking for. But how do we encourage personal responsibility and common sense?
I think you have to be truly. It has to come from a place of kindness and help, as opposed to a place of disrespect. It seems like with the social media issue, sometimes we lose, and it's a form of bullying. We've all experienced it, where people have gone online and they will say things online, and then when you see them in public, they'll walk away from you. And you want to be able to say, well, you had all that to say online. Here we are now. And they walk away, because there are many people who engage in that type of behavior are engaging in very cowardly behavior, because they wouldn't say it to you, to your face. They wouldn't talk to you about it. So we've allowed that to happen. I think we have to clamp down on that. We have to be less tolerant of that. I don't think it's okay to say that. Mm-hmm. And I think when people make decisions, and I respect people, if you make a decision to go with your son and walk on the beach, that's your decision. What is it? How does that affect my life? It's not my beach. It's a public beach, and you want to walk with your son, or you want to take a friend, or, we've all been socially isolating since March. This is May. Mm-hmm. I haven't gone anywhere. I haven't left the county. I've gone to the grocery store, and I've gone in the middle of the night to clean a bit around the co-working space when no one's there with Lysol, because no one uses it other than one at a time, right? We have this system where only one person gets the whole co-working space at a time to work, and people go in and work, and it's very orderly and everything. But other than walking around the farm and talking to some tradespeople that I've been able to hire, I haven't gone anywhere. And most people I know have socially isolated, but we can't. If we're both socially isolating, doesn't that mean we're both okay to connect?
This is one thing that I don't understand. I can't wrap my head around. If the kids are over here, all right, for 14 days to 20 days.
Mr. Ford's children. Let's use that example.
Yeah. So the kids are over here for 20 days. The grandparents are over here for 20 days. They haven't seen anybody.
Right.
And for some reason, we feel that there's this big force that will happen when they connect and hug. That we gotta prevent that. And for me, I don't understand it. I can't get it through my head why this person who's been safe for 20 days and this person that's been safe for 20 days can't connect. I'm going to start thinking that connecting creates the virus. That's where I'm mentally getting. And that's where I see a lot of people, because a lot of people have been safe. I'd say a majority of people, it's hard to actually go out and in contact with people.
Yeah, people. We all keep the distance, and I did have to go to a farm dealership because of the wildflower bee farm. We were all isolated and so I don't get it. But at what point will those lines intersect, Ben, and your common sense brain says, I'm just going to do it? That's my question, because we're getting very close. I mean, my common sense brain is about to say, I'm about ready to go.
Right.
And I'm going to be responsible, and I have a mask. I carry a mask with me all the time. And if I ever had any, but I'm not leaving the municipality. I'm not going anywhere. But I just think if I want to go somewhere or go out in the community or go to a store and buy, I wish those stores were open because I want to go to them. And I just want to get on with life because I'm willing to take that risk.
Right.
Now, my mom's
Let's see here.
95. I mean, I think you got to protect people that are older and be careful. But I mean,
Something that I realize even more with this pandemic is how people who are in nursing homes or shut-ins, etc., who are not able to get out freely like we all have been able to normally do. I wish there was more we could, as a community, we could do to support them all the time. Thinking of those people who never have families that come and visit. Now, I did read somebody talking about seniors, and now there's how there's almost been a lack of services where a lot of people are affected in nursing homes, and that's like that all the time. That's not new. It's just the virus kind of exposed some links on ways that we can, maybe be there to support our aging population a little bit more all the time, rather than just thinking about it at this time.
well, let me ask you this.
You
I'm
saying?
hoping there's people who could answer this because I'm not a criminal lawyer or a police officer. But if someone dies in your care from dehydration or malnutrition, is that not a crime?
I believe that would be,
Because there are a number of seniors in
but I don't know.
Quebec and other nursing homes that died because of malnutrition and dehydration. Let's just let that sink in for a minute. Like, what does that mean? Like, how does that happen? Like, there's something.
I think that's what they're finding in the States. That happened a lot, Henry.
But doesn't that just hurt? Doesn't that make you just feel horrible? Like, how is that happening? Like, what are we doing? Like, and then when, like we talked last time, Rick didn't get on, but apparently the province spends $54,000 a bed to keep someone in a nursing home. 54 grand a year. Like, Ben, come on. Could we provide better care for 54 grand a year for someone who's 80, 90 or whatever? Where's the money going? Why do you have 4 people in a room with a curtain be separating them with no care, and it's 54 grand a person the cost for that care? Who's watching that? Who's monitoring that? I mean, and the problem, my concern is we have so many other issues now, not other issues, but we have so many issues in total. This will be forgotten again. We're commending the military for going in. It's embarrassing when you have to have the military go in to take care of people so they don't die in a government funded facility. Like, there's something wrong. Like, this is an opportunity to look at this and say, how do we change this forever? Like, when you sit and talk to someone who's hopefully, you get an opportunity, many of us, we all have, they gave a lot to our country, whether it's veterans or farmers or people who work, anyone who's a senior has done a lot for us. And that's what we do in the end. We sort of put them in a place where they die of starvation or dehydration. Like that's the sad part to all this. We talk about, we're so fortunate, you and I, you can go running, I can walk on my farm, other people, I have family, we have all people, but it's so difficult to hear what's happening around us, that we have to step up as Canadians finally, and people in Chatham can say, not in my community. When do we just say enough's enough?
Right.
I mean, you can't. Let me ask you this, Ben. Last night, you can't take the $4 million for the garage and hire some more PSWs and pay them a reasonable salary. Couldn't someone just step up and say, instead of the $4 million for a garage, so people feel better working on cars, we're going to take that $4 million and we're going to hire so many more PSWs and give them better quality of life, and we're going to help people in our community who are living in these facilities. Why couldn't we just do that?
I do find it interesting that what they cut versus what they purchased. Even if they had to, it's definitely not a good look to cut all the public services and build a garage. That definitely wasn't a good look.
I'm going to go back to dehydration and malnutrition.
Right.
Do we have a priority list? We're going to cut some children's soccer league and not hire students who rely on the jobs to take, to get back to school or whatever they're doing. And that's our priority. We're going to get rid of everybody here who really needs to work so that a few can continue to make. Now, listen, what's the cost of living in Chatham-Kent versus Toronto?
Much less.
So if you're making $150,000, $160,000, $170,000 in Chatham-Kent, what does that equate to Toronto dollars?
That would, I think,
300-400 maybe.
Yeah,
Well,
I think it's almost a
right.
3-1 or 3.5-1.
So we won't have that group sacrifice, but we'll sacrifice everyone else.
Yeah, it's very shocking when you put it the way that you just put it,
I'm an
right?
outlier, right? I'm an
When you
outlier.
put the detail, well, the thing is that when you put the details in, it's not anything anybody wants to hear, right?
Or talk about.
It
Who wants to talk about
Yeah,
this stuff?
and it's not talked about enough. And I
Yeah.
think there has to be, out of all this. I think that's one thing that we have to focus more energy on, more money on, and really more focus and eyes, like watching some what's going on. And a lot of it's just not enough funding to get the proper care to the
Well,
people that need the care.
there's enough funding that's being allocated somewhere else other than to care.
Right.
I mean, come on, Ben. If you and I sit around and say, okay, we have $54,000 times 4, we have $216,000 to take care of 4 seniors. You're in real estate. Are we gonna figure that out? You and I know. I have technology for seniors. My mom's at home with care. We can do an incredible job. These people will be eating amazing
Right.
food. They will have a great life. And why isn't that happening? And staff will be on salary. And I mean, there's so much you could do that. So the money's going somewhere, Ben. It's just not going. When you have a 1-20, I've heard 1-30 staff client ratio.
Right.
Where's it going? But I think at some point, when are we going, for our mental health, when are we going to stand up and say enough's enough in some of these things that have been really coming out with this current COVID situation?
Cost of rent we need to make minimum $20 an hour to afford $1,500 a month utilities, especially us single incomes. Let's see here. We have one up here. We're at the hour again. We really
I feel guilty, Ben.
need
I
more
feel
time.
better, but I don't think anybody else does. I think this is not good. I should stop talking about these things. You got me started. Who brought up politics? Why do you have to bring up politics all the time?
Well, you know what? Politics, the thing is a lot of what we're seeing in politics is what we're actually seeing. And we're depending on politics right now because that's all we're at home waiting for politicians to tell us what we can and cannot do. So politics has become a big part of a lot of people's lives. It really has, whether they like it or not.
If someone said the scariest thing to hear is I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. It's the scariest comment to have to hear because it doesn't usually turn out well.
Very, very rarely.
Can you give me an example where that turned out well, Ben?
No, I can't. So, hey guys, we're going to close this out in a couple seconds or a couple minutes, but get your last comments in to win pizza from Konstantinos, a pound of wings and a large pizza. Probably be very tasty. So
we have to end on a good note. We have to end on a good note too, Ben.
So let's do end on a good note here, Henry. What can we do this week?
We beat it up for an hour and then we go, oh, we've got 5 minutes of good stuff for you.
How do we take steps to see the bright side? Like we had somebody there comment and you said, I like the way you took something and made something bright out of it. And what are steps to do that? What can we do to have twist that mindset a little bit to something good?
What about
how can we look at things differently?
Should we have an action plan that everybody takes action with something that they can control? I'm not saying break any rules or laws, but take some action in your life. Take control of something in your life. I've got some ideas that we can do. And you need to start to take action, whether it be writing. I mean, I'm going to be writing Mr. Ford tomorrow just because I'll feel better and I'll be very appropriate, but I'm going to write him because I will feel better about the last weekend. And I think you need to, even though no one listens, no one ever often responds, some secretary throws it in the garbage or shreds it, some person, but you still need to take action. You need to be involved. I mean, I wish, do they have an association of hairstylists and barbers? I think everybody should get together. All the hairstylists should get together and say, do we have community support to open? Is there a way we can push this? Talk to your community people that may step up. But I think taking action is really important. And also some of the comments we neglected to talk about today. If you're fortunate and you're around family and you have your children and you're able to interact with them, the other one is to reach out. I think reaching out is important because it will not only make the person feel better you're contacting, but also the person that is doing the contacting is helping. And the other thing I want to say is sometimes I get very critical, but all the people I've worked with where we've had these discussions, they're healthy, and then we can have a coffee afterwards when we respect each other. It's okay to disagree. When I get hired to work with executives, when I do some coaching, they don't hire me and say, Henry, just tell me everything I say is right. I only get hired to pick out the problems. It doesn't matter how great you think it is. If I'm your coach, I'll tell you what I think, and you can disagree with me or not listen. But later we can have a coffee and talk about it. So even though we've been critical of Mr. Nickel and Ford and local politicians and the mayor, hopefully the issue, not the people. And this is what I think we need to think about.
Awesome. I want to talk about the miracle on May 16th. Have you heard about this, Henry?
I keep seeing the signs, but I'm sorry, I don't know anything about it. When I drove to the farm dealership the other day, I saw them all.
Yeah.
What is it?
What it is a big donation drive. So the way to do it is you put your non-perishable goods out on your doorstep, cans, boxes, anything that can go to a food bank, and it's going to be picked up on May 16th. Now, what people are doing to promote this is they're making their own signs, kind of like a real grassroots effort. I do believe there was a Zoom conference call today that they were doing. We do our thing on Tuesday night, so we couldn't make it, but it's going to be big. They're going to try to have the biggest food drive there is, and I think they're going to be very successful.
Are they coming to Blenheim? Like, do you come to Blenheim?
There's going to be rural. I'll do a Facebook Live with a bunch of details about it, and that's part of it is that everybody's their own part in promoting it. But there's rural drop-off areas.
What time of day does this happen? Like, you put it out the night before? Like, what time do people come and take
I
your stuff?
don't know the details, but it's happening May 16th. I'm going to get people the details. But yeah, it's going to be a big, big deal. And it's, I think they're going to have 200 trucks driving around, picking things up. How do we help pick up? So I wish I had the website. It might be May16thmiracle.com or something with those numbers in it, or those words.
Is there a list of what they need, or is it any like tuna or pork and beans, or what is it?
I think it's just whatever you can give, and if we get enough people doing that, and I'll do a show talking about it noon. Comiskey said, Jeff Comiskey. So at noon they're going to be doing it.
Thanks, Carrie Lynn. That makes me feel good when people give us the prop now and then. We are human. It's nice to hear someone say that wasn't really horrible today. We help people. But I was telling you more about what I was feeling. Ben was telling you what he was feeling. We weren't listening maybe enough to people out there. But I'm getting frustrated if you haven't noticed. And I've got to find some action to take and help more people next week to help get through this. It's been a tough week for people right now. It's getting worse. I see every week getting more difficult. And we need to communicate to the people who can reduce some of these rules that it's time to start helping people live their lives.
Right.
Who won the pizza and wings, Ben? That's what people want to know. Who won the pizza and wings?
Okay, here's what we're gonna do, Henry. We're gonna post what we who we picked. We just gotta scroll through. So we're gonna end this broadcast and then I'll post it. So if you guys are watching this, I'll post it in about 8 minutes who has won the large pizza and wings. So you guys got about 30 more seconds to say hello or anything in the comment section to win yourself a chance at winning that pizza and wings. And again, Henry, thank you again for another great week of conversation. We do cover a lot.
Every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. I think people
really enjoyed it today.
Well, thank you. I felt good about being here, and I'm glad, Ben, you do a great show, and hopefully I didn't, get too involved. Just don't say politics next time, okay?
It's something that we really can't avoid. Hold on, I gotta say hello to my mom. My mom watches this. She's Margot. She watches Henry.
She's
like you wouldn't
Your
believe.
family's great. Yeah, you haven't been able to hug him for a long time, probably, eh?
I have, yes.
Good.
I've been able to.
Oh, good.
So, but let's see here. So, hey guys, thank you very much for watching. Henry, thank you. And if you want to catch Henry and I talking Monday mornings at 7 a.m. on the Live
7
with
a.m.
Ben page, that's early, but we do it. We talk Business Entrepreneur Weekly.
Business.
So that's what we talk about, and you guys can watch that. And again, comment to get Konstantinos large pizza and wings. And Henry, thank you. Hey guys, thank you.
Ben,
And
I'll see
everybody
you
have a great
next
night. See you
Tuesday at
next
8
week.
o'clock. Now I have to figure out how to meet my wing craving I have now. I have a craving for wings, spicy wings. Thanks, Ben. And a beverage. See you, bud.
Awesome. All right. Thank you very much and have a great night.